This morning, something we have not seen in years. Lawmakers getting ready for a full-blown floor fight for Speaker of the House when the legislature reconvenes on Tuesday.
When they walked out, they left us with an option between Cook and Calamity. That's it.
Incoming Republican Brent Money on his party's infighting, increasing abortion restrictions, and the future of the Texas lottery. Public education has a new advocate in Austin. Aisha Davis moving from the State Board of Education to the Texas House of Representatives. So if lawmakers fully fund public ed, would she support school vouchers? One of our questions. And banning THC in Texas. 8,000 vape shops across the state say their livelihoods are at risk. But what would happen to medical marijuana? Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller on this current proposal.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Jason Whiteley. A lot to get to this morning, so let's start with the headlines as always here. The Texas legislature, it reconvenes at noon on Tuesday. Lawmakers have 140 days to craft a state budget and pass anything else they can agree on. First order of business, though, is electing a new Speaker of the House, someone to lead that chamber. That will happen on Tuesday, and it's the first time in years this looks like it's going to become a floor fight. Governor Greg Abbott wants to buy water from Houston and send it out to West Texas. Mayor John Whitmire told the Houston Chronicle that Abbott called him about it. Whitmire said he's open to the idea since Houston could use the money to repair its own water system. Aquifers in West Texas are drying up because of drilling. It's another indication of the state's ongoing water shortage. And Texas Congressman Keith Self, he wants to move the headquarters of U.S. Customs and Border Protection to Texas. He filed a bill in D.C. to do that. Self does not say where in Texas he thinks it should go. The Dallas Morning News says Trump has indicated plans to move thousands of federal jobs out of D.C. when he takes office next week. But let's start this morning with one of the Republican priorities in the Texas Senate, banning THC. When the legislature legalized hemp a few years ago, it could only have very low levels of THC in it. That's the ingredient in cannabis that can get you high. But legislators say that law has been exploited and kids are now getting their hands on what amounts to recreational marijuana. Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller pulled from both sides on this issue, and he's watching to see how it unfolds. Commissioner, welcome back to the program. You said you received a lot of messages asking you to oppose the Lieutenant Governor's proposed ban on THC. Who is asking you to come out against it?
Well, of course, 8,000 vape shops across the state of Texas. It would be detrimental to their businesses. But we have 8,000 businesses selling this THC product, and it's the same thing as marijuana. Basically, we have recreational marijuana in Texas right now. No one just wants to admit it. What has happened when I wrote the rules for the hemp law, a couple of synthetics didn't exist, Delta 8, Delta 9. So we wrote it for the existing products, which was hemp and THC marijuana. These new products have come out and they have the exact same effect as full marijuana. But the legislation doesn't address them because they didn't exist at the time the legislation was written.
The legislature obviously did not approve recreational marijuana in Texas, but why not just put stricter rules on this rather than an outright ban that might impact these 8,000 shops and businesses across the state? Why not require, photo ID to show, how old you are before you are able to purchase these things?
Well, and that's I'm glad we're having the hearings, and I think that'll all come out. We'll hear the pros and the cons, and we're pro-business, especially the Republican Party. But we also want to protect our youth. I will say these THC products, even though that they may be illegal and may be banned, they're not near as dangerous as some of the prescription drugs that we already have on the market. Oxycontin, hydrocodone, fentanyl. You can get prescription for those. THC has none of the terrible effects that some of those drugs have. So I think that will all come out in the hearing. We'll see where we are. I'm against recreational marijuana, but I do support expanding medicinal uses. If it can help somebody, let's help them. I just want to make sure we don't go too far and limit the true medical use of this compound.
I want to ask about medical in a moment, but just to make sure I'm clear on this, you wrote in your opinion piece the other day that you support the Lieutenant Governor's proposed ban on these THC products, these synthetics that are out there. But in the conversation here, it sounds like you want to wait and see what comes out in the testimony. Where are you exactly on this? Do you support a full ban on any of these low-level THC products?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do. I am against recreational marijuana, and that's basically what these products are. Now, if there's some way and I don't know that there's some way that through this legislative process, through the hearings, through testimony, we find out something different, well, we'll look at that. I'm keeping an open mind as we go through this process. But the process I certainly agree with. I'm glad we're doing it. We do need some regulation on this.
Wouldn't just banning it, though, push it underground? I mean, shouldn't the state, keep some regulation on this to at least bring in some revenue and more tightly control it?
Well, that's the point of having the hearings. You just made my point for me. We don't, which is worse, completely banning it and having it underground in the black market, or having some kind of regulation over it. So we'll work through that. We'll have hearings in the House. We'll have hearings in the Senate. It'll be debated on the Senate floor, the House floor, and ultimately, if it gets to the governor's desk, he can decide if he wants to make it law or not.
And then last thing, just want to follow up with something I asked you last time too. Are you still working with the Trump transition team?
I am. Yep. Talked to them this week. Still working with them. We're helping them find good people to put in place. Absolutely.
Have they asked you to take a job in DC?
I've been offered some. I haven't taken any. So we're still in negotiations on that.
What kind of job would you want in DC?
Well, apparently I haven't found one yet. So we're, kind of keeping that under wraps. I don't want to be speaking out on the things that should be kept in the transition team meetings.
Commissioner, it's always good to see you. I appreciate the time, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, let's bring in the roundtable to talk about the politics of this. Bernadine Steptoe is here, political producer at WFAA in Dallas. Bud Kennedy is a columnist at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. And Renzo Downey, he is the lead writer for The Blast. It's a new political newsletter from the Texas Tribune. Bud, let's start with you. Back to the hemp here and the recreational marijuana, quote unquote. It's Senate Bill 3. This is a big deal in the Senate. What's going to happen with this, do you expect?
Well, it's tough to figure out, and it's tough to tell exactly what the commissioner wants. He says he's for medical marijuana. He's for these 8,000 shops, and basically he says the law is confusing. We don't know what's legal, and as long as we don't know, we ought to regulate where, when, and how, and to whom it's sold. It's basically that we need a structure of rules until we figure out what's legal or not. That doesn't seem like a good way to make law.
And Renzo, do you think these 8,000 vape shops across Texas are going to have much of a say, of influence when the legislature comes back Tuesday?
Well, I don't think the shops are necessarily going to have influence here. I think it's the state party, and the legislature is ultimately going to have the final say here. And I'm not sure that a handful of shops that are in an industry that is contrary to some of their positions are going to have much influence here.
And Bernadine, that's kind of my reaction as well. I mean, this is going to be decided at the highest levels, it seems.
Absolutely, and it appears as if it's primarily a Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick issue, because he is determined to put this forth as an issue that's harming children. But I don't think that it's going to completely get banned, because as the Commissioner Sid Miller said, it is helping people. Well, the medical marijuana is helping people.
Yeah, those low levels there too. Whether they differentiate is going to be the question. That's going to be, what they dice up here in the legislative session. Guys, back to you all in just a minute. We have a lot more ahead, including this. When we come back this morning, two freshman lawmakers. Brent Money on the new abortion law that he wants to get passed. And is the Texas lottery in jeopardy? Plus, Aisha Davis on the thoughtful approach she's taking in the coming fight over school vouchers. Inside Texas politics, back in a moment. When the Texas House of Representatives gavels back into session on Tuesday, there will be 32 new lawmakers, a significant turnover in that chamber. Two of them are on this week's episode of Y'all-itics, in depth with us about what they want to accomplish and how. This morning, we want to share excerpts from this episode. First up, State Rep Aisha Davis, a former member of the State Board of Education who represents Southern Dallas County and is now preparing for the fight over school vouchers.
Well, when I was on the State Board of Education, I got to do some amazing things for public schools, but we had to work within the state law. So if we had stronger state laws for public education, the State Board could do even more. So that's why I was so interested in this position once it came available. And it's just been exciting to know all of the things that I can do to work with my colleagues across the House to figure out how we support our public schools.
Well, what are some of those things you want to change then that you saw at the State Board of Education? You say, well, this law needs to be changed so we can do this, that, or the other. What do you want to do?
We definitely need to figure out how to support the teacher pipeline. We need to make sure that
more?
I'm sorry?
Hire more teachers?
Oh, absolutely. Hire more teachers, prepare more folks to be teachers, make folks excited about the teaching profession. Right now in Texas, we have a lot of folks, there's a hurdle when it comes to certification. Mm-hmm. So figuring out how we can get more folks into those certified programs, those programs for certification, figuring out how we can pay our teachers and keep them in the profession.
Yeah, because we heard a lot about teacher pay raises the last time around, and of course we went into all of these special sessions, and it never happened, even with that record surplus.
Right, and even though they didn't get any pay raises, there were still a lot of unfunded mandates that did pass. So you had teachers that were doing more work with less pay. And so I definitely want to have some conversations about how we fix that.
You know, some Republican leaders, though, say we want to fully fund public schools and set aside money for vouchers. If schools were fully funded, public schools fully funded, would you support vouchers?
Well, we got to talk about what fully funding all of our public schools in Texas would look like. And if there's a budget to fully fund public schools where teachers are paid adequately and they have a system of raises that aren't dependent on STAR scores, and we have teachers that are able to get all of these resources for all these different courses that they're teaching, and we have schools that are able to really invest in their infrastructure and all the new resources and buildings, if we talk about how much that would really cost for the over 1,200 ISDs and the charter schools that we adopt and approve and expand every single year, that's a lot of money. So until we realistically talk about what a fully funded public school is, then we're going to see those numbers are a lot more than what I think the idea is, to be able to have both a system of fully funded schools and a voucher system.
But the other big news in the House is going to be the speaker's race. It's going to be a Republican who gets it, but what's remarkable to me is that Republicans, since they're not unified, they have to go begging and pleading to Democrats for votes. Do you ever think you'd be in this position?
Well, I have not signed on to anyone yet.
You haven't?
No. I wanted to make sure that I knew enough to make the right decision.
So what else do you need to know about these two? Are you going to wait until day of, on the first day of the legislature?
I likely will, because it's, a couple of days. Still learning more and more about each of them and some of their priorities and some of the folks they surround themselves with and some of their goals for the session. So just taking time to really think about it, talk to constituents, talk to other leaders around Dallas County and other leaders in the House. It's been a journey figuring it all out.
State Rep-elect Aisha Davis there is one of 24 lawmakers who have not made up their mind about who to support for Speaker on Tuesday. Now, though, excerpts from our interview with Brent Money. He has a prediction about the Speaker's race, but also listen to what he says about abortion and the state lottery. State Rep-elect Brent Money is a Republican from Greenville whose district includes parts east of the Metroplex. The Attorney General is on that statewide tour right now, urging these lawmakers who have sided with Dustin Burrows to get behind David Cook and threatening them, saying, listen, I'm going to primary you if you don't get behind David Cook. What do you think about the retaliation?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can call it a threat or a retaliation. It's more just a promise of the way things are going to be. The party made it clear, not now, but they made it clear at the convention that they wanted the House Republicans to follow the rules that are set in place on how to select a speaker. Rules that Dustin Burrows wrote, actually. He was one of the original architects of this, hey, let's get together as a caucus and decide, back in 2017. And so I think that we had a good process in place. We might still be there if they hadn't walked out trying to decide which person would be able to unify the party. But what happened is when they walked out, they left us with an option between Cook and Calamity. That's it. It's going to be Cook, the Republican nominee, or we're going to have a mess on our hands. And
Beyond
so-
the big ticket items, though, if once you are able to get in the system and start filing bills, if you had your way and they said, Brent, we're going to give you 3 things that we think will sail through, you just got to file them. What are you pushing for this time in these next 2 years?
I think that the big issues for me, and we may have talked about this last time, but abortion. People think that we've ended abortion in Texas, and we've done well, but frankly, we still have almost as many self-induced abortions now than we did before. It's just instead of happening in a clinic, it's happening at home, which is not as safe. And I think we need to end abortion in Texas.
So fully abolish.
What would that
abortion.
mean? Get rid of the morning after pill, Plan B, stuff like that?
Yes,
it in Texas?
but really it means that when that life is conceived in the image of God, it is its own person. We recognize that in Texas law. If you kill or murder a pregnant woman, that's a double murder. Yeah. But if you just kill the baby, it is if you're a doctor, but it's not if you're the mom or if you're the dad. I mean, there's just and so we really have created a 2-class system where we say if you want the baby, then it's murder, but if you don't want the baby, then it's not.
So what more would you legislate then?
Huh?
What more would you legislate?
It's as simple as saying we're going to give equal protection to an unborn child and a not yet born child. We are going to say that if you kill a baby, then we're going to call that murder.
So there would be punishment for
there would be punishment
a woman.
for it. There would be punishment for a woman.
Now, the last question is legalizing gambling.
Yes.
Everybody in Dallas-Fort Worth says we're on the edge of this thing because there are new owners of the Dallas Mavs who own casinos in Las Vegas. Would you get behind something like this for legalizing gambling, whether it's little bubbles that have been proposed in certain areas of the state or whether it's just blanket? Are the votes there for it, though, do you think?
Once again, I haven't whipped it. I don't think so. I think there's going to be a big push this session. The lottery is up on Sunset, and there's a lot of people saying, hey, the lottery has not delivered what it said that it would.
Why are you dropping the bomb at the end here?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Are we getting rid of the lottery?
You think the lottery's going away?
I don't know.
Is there support to get rid of the lottery?
I would say that there are a lot of people saying, hey, let's take a look at the lottery. Are there the votes there? I don't know, but I think the lottery needs to. There needs to be at least some reform.
State Rep-elects Brent Money and Aisha Davis, both on this week's episode of Y'all-Tics, which you can download right now wherever you get your podcasts. Up next on this program, the roundtable is ready when we come back. All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Renzo, Bud, and Bernadine both back here with us for this segment. Bud, let's start with you and the House election for a new speaker. The question that, a lot of people are asking is what's going on with this? Who's paying attention to this outside the Beltway in Austin? But I'm curious whether you think Abraham George, the chairman of the GOP state party, Dan Patrick, Ken Paxton, and Greg Abbott, are they going to have influence in this on getting David Cook elected, or is Dustin Burrows going to win this?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that Dan Patrick and Ken Paxton want somebody running the House who's favorable to Dan Patrick and Ken Paxton. Paxton, might even need a little more money from the House. So the House is generally picks a speaker who'll stand up to the lieutenant governor. So that doesn't really work in David Cook's favor. David Cook is a representative who's got a good reputation. He's worked with everybody in the House. He's not the politician that Tom Craddock was when Tom Craddock was elected 20 years ago as a arch conservative speaker at the time. He was a much better politician. He negotiated with Democrats in the Valley, brought infrastructure to the Valley, was able to get support. Either David Cook's not willing to compromise or the people behind him are not letting him.
And Renzo, this is usually worked out before lawmakers gavel into session. Do you expect this is going to be a full-blown floor fight?
Yeah, at this point, it's going to go to the floor. Even if Representative Dustin Burrows comes out and says he has the votes, this self-described reform caucus, they're going to take this to the floor. They want to make a point that this faction of the Republican Party is unified behind David Cook.
Bernadine, what will you be watching for?
Well, I'm definitely going to be watching the Democrats because both Cook and Burrows are depending upon some Democrats. But if you listen to a number of them, they're not totally together on who they want as well, because they have problems with Dustin Burrows. And a number of them are more favorable toward David Cook. What they're saying is their biggest problem is with the people who are surrounding him. And that he has done well. And keep in mind, too, that Dustin Burrows, he's part of that. Remember the secret a recording that happened back, 5 years ago, where he was caught on tape talking badly about these same Democrats that he wants the support from at this point. So I think that anybody who says that either candidate has a majority of votes, they're not sure of what they're talking about, because I think at this point, nobody knows who's going to win it. And I think, too, that it will be a floor vote.
Bud?
Jason, let's make a point here. Dave Phelan served 3 terms, and yet in the most recent poll, less than half the people in Texas had any opinion about him. They said they really didn't know anything about him. The Speaker of the House is pretty obscure everywhere except inside the House or inside the Beltway, even more so now that people have been consumed with the national presidential race, national politics. You haven't seen anything on the major news networks about the Texas Speaker's race. You probably won't. It's not something that's made a lot of headlines. So it's pretty much a local race.
Bernadine, final.
And Jason, you know what Bud just said brings the point of just how effective those who are going out and that Paxton
Right.
and Patrick, what kind of influence they actually have, because the general public doesn't care.
Yeah, this will be fascinating to see, because it's something that hasn't happened in Texas in a long time that I can remember. Guys, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for watching as well. We're going to be back next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics, live coverage from Austin, and we're also looking ahead next week to the presidential inauguration. We'll see you next Sunday.